Hi, this is Antonius Frentis. Welcome to part 2 of a 3-part video tutorial which describes the basic concepts of MiceOnABeam through the creation of a script for a secure door in Second Life. If you haven't seen part 1, please take the time to view it now. Here's the model from part 1 of the video where we created the logic to open and close a door. Note how clearly the visual model is able to describe the script's logic flow. The script starts off in the closed state, and when the door is touched, it moves to the open state, where upon state entry the door is opened. There the script waits for either another touch event or a timer event. In either case, the door will close on exit from the open state, and the script returns to the closed state. In this part 2 of the tutorial, we'll modify the design to read a note card to get a list of avatars who are authorized to use the door. First off, we're going to add a new state to the script model in order to handle the initialization that the script must now first go through. During initialization, the script must read a note card from the prim's inventory, which contains the names of all the avatars permitted to enter through the door. Note that we need a new state here since the event that the script will be interested in during initialization is different from the touch end and timer events that it responds to during normal operation of the door. To make room for the new state, click and drag the mouse to select the existing states and move them off a bit to the right. Move the states a bit closer together if necessary. Then click on the state icon in the toolbar and click within the state editor to create the new state. Resize it to make it bigger. And rename the state to Read Note Card by right-clicking it and selecting Edit Name. Next, we want to change the script's default starting state from closed to read note card. To do this, click the initial transition and then click and drag its endpoint over to the read note card state. Now, reading a note card involves making a special call to Second Life servers. You call the function getNoteCardLine to read one line at a time, initiating a new call after the previous line has been received. With each call, an ID or receipt for the request is immediately provided back to you, which you can save. Following the request, the data server event is sent back to the script, which will contain the string data of the note card line you previously requested. To handle the reading of the note card, you must first create several new state variables to store information needed by the script. So now right-click over the state editor background and select Edit State Variables and Functions. Let's make a bit more room here. Next, create a new list type variable called whitelist. This list will contain all the avatar names read from the note card, and we'll check the list later on to determine whether a particular avatar will be allowed to enter through the door. Create a new key type variable called queryKey. Here, we'll store the receipt or ID of the most recent request made to read data from the note card. Create a new integer variable called currentLine. This will contain the most recent line number of the note card that we've requested. And finally, create a new string variable called line. Line will store the contents of the line that we've just received from the note card. We're also going to create a function to reset a couple of the variables, adding the door's owner to the whitelist. In the State Functions area, create a new function named init. Now add in the code to initialize the whitelist to a list consisting of a single element, which is the name of the owner of the door prim. Note, we use the llgetOwner function here to get the key of the owner, and then pass that value as a parameter to the keyToName function in order to get the name corresponding to the owner's key. The second line initializes the current line variable, which tracks the note card line, to 0. Click OK to close the State Variables and Functions editor. We'll want to call the init function whenever the script is reset, so open the Properties editor for the initial transition and add in a call to init. So now we're ready to put in the actual code to start the reading of the note card. Open up the Properties editor for the Read Note Card state. To read a line from the note card, use the getNoteCardLine function, passing it the name of the note card in the door prim's inventory, namely whitelist, and the number of the line that we want to read. Note that we store the returned ID for the request in the query key variable that was previously created. Now that we've made the request to read a line from the note card, we need to handle the data server event that Second Life will send back to the script along with the note card line data. So let's put in the structure for this. When the data server event is received, we'll process the note card line that is returned, or if all the note card lines have been read, we'll move to the close state. To make this decision, add a choice point to the model by clicking on the choice point icon in the toolbar and then clicking within the state editor. A choice point is used when a decision has to be made as to which state to move to after receiving an event. Rename the choice point Test4EOF, which stands for End of File, meaning that there are no more lines in the note card to read. Now create a transition from Read Note Card to the choice point and open up its Properties editor. Set the event for the transition to Data Server. Most events have some data associated with them. You can always access these arguments directly by name within the transition where the event is defined. In other places, such as transitions leaving a choice point, you can use the special built-in event functions to access the data of the most recently received event. The query ID argument contains the ID of the request, so we need to test our query key variable against it to ensure that we're processing the right event. The LSL code here is an equality test that returns true or false, enabling or disabling the transition. The argument named data contains the note card line. If there are no more lines to be read, data will be set to the LSL constant EOF, which we'll make use of shortly. For now, we'll just save the line of data into the state variable line. Click OK to close the Properties editor. Next, add a transition leaving the choice point back to the Read Note Card state. And add another transition from the choice point to the close state. The conditional test associated with a choice point is actually done within the guard conditions of each of its outgoing transitions. Each transition is tested in turn, and the first one whose guard condition evaluates to true is taken. If none of the guard conditions evaluate to true, then a transition with guard set to else will be taken. Open up the Properties editor for the transition to the close state. Set its name to Done, and set its guard condition to test whether the line variable is equal to end of file. The built-in constant EOF indicates that there are no more lines to read. If the condition is true, then we have finished reading the note card and the script is moved to the closed state. Next, open up the Properties editor for the transition to the Read Note Card state and change its name to Get Next Line. Set its guard condition to Else so that this transition will be taken if we are not at end of file. For the transition action, insert the following code to add the contents of line to our list variable whitelist, and thereby save the avatar name. Then increment current line in preparation for reading the next line in the note card. Click OK to save your changes. So when this transition is taken, we'll save another name in our list of authorized avatars, and the script will return to the Read Note Card state. Upon re-entry, it will request the next line of the note card from Second Life servers. The script continues this cycle until all the lines in the note card have been read, and then moves to the close state. So as you can see, the logic to read a note card is made explicitly clear when using MiceOnABeam. It's now time to test out these changes to the model. Don't forget to create a note card named Whitelist and copy it to the DoorPrims inventory. Here are some things to remember. Variables and functions defined for a state can only be accessed from within that state and all of its substates. A choice point is only used when a decision has to be made as to which state to move to after receiving an event. It should not be used for every if-then-else statement that would be normally part of your code. The conditional test for a choice point is specified by the guard conditions of each of its outgoing transitions. The transitions are tested in turn, and the first one whose guard condition evaluates to true is taken. If none evaluate to true, then a transition whose guard condition is set to else will be taken. Many events have data arguments associated with them when they are received. These argument values can be directly accessed by name only within the guard condition and action code of the transition where the event is defined. To access them within a continuing transition, such as those leaving a choice point, you can either save their values in state variables or use the built-in event functions that MiceOnABeam provides. We've now reached the end of Part 2 of MiceOnABeam Basics. In Part 3 of this series, we're going to modify the model to check the avatar clicking the door against the list of authorized avatars.